Craig was driving his Model 3 Performance in Naperville, Illinois. Watch what happened when he was just 2 blocks from home. Craig estimates they were both going at least 45 miles per hour when this happened. The driver of a Honda Accord ran a red light and T-boned him on the driver's side. Craig's Tesla spun completely around and took out a traffic light before finally coming to rest. Craig tried the door openers on both sides and they didn't work. Since he rarely uses the manual door openers, it didn't cross his mind to try them in the heat of the moment. Instead, he took immediate action and exited headfirst through his side window, which had been shattered in the accident. After exiting his car without injury, Craig heard the other driver shouting that he was injured and that Craig had run a red light and destroyed his new car. As Craig approached him to assess his condition, the other driver kept shouting, "Get away from me, I'm hurt." At that point, Craig honestly wasn't sure if he was actually in the wrong and had caused the accident, so he backed off. He calmly stated that he thought the other driver had run the red light and that his car had captured the event on video. When the police arrived, witnesses at the bus stop told them that the Honda driver had run the red light, so they decided they didn't need to watch the Teslacam footage. Both cars were deemed a total loss. Even though the other driver was found to be at fault, Craig still had to navigate a lengthy insurance process. His insurance provider, State Farm, said that no vehicle add-ons would be considered when determining the value of his car. That means they wouldn't cover the $5,000 he paid for full self-driving. In the end, Craig had to put down another $10,000 from his own pocket to replace his Tesla with a similar car. Renee was driving her Model 3 when another driver veered into her lane. She swerved into the other lane to avoid the wrong-way driver, but the driver behind her had no chance to escape and was hit head-on. Renee pulled over and ran to make sure everyone was okay. Luckily, everyone walked away from the accident, but the car that was hit was totaled and the other driver's car ended up in the ditch. The driver who'd caused the accident said that he'd gotten distracted while reaching for something. Renee stayed at the scene until first responders arrived. She showed the Teslacam footage to the police and was later called as a witness. Nikita was waiting in a McDonald's drive-thru line with her sister. A ute, or pickup truck, towing a trailer had parked across several spaces to avoid blocking traffic. The owner of the ute was inside McDonald's getting lunch when a man in a silver Volkswagen Golf pulled up alongside the truck. Nikita and her sister heard a loud noise and wondered what it was. As they looked in the direction of the noise, they saw a man going to town on the car. First, he threw something at the ute before opening his trunk and pulling out a hammer. He smashed the ute's window, then calmly walked back to his car, returned the hammer to his trunk, and drove away. Nikita saved the footage and gave it to the owner of the ute. She also called the police and gave a detailed description of the man and of the car he was driving, including the license plate number. Dudley was driving his Model Y to work in Pataskala, Ohio, when he heard a loud bang. A moment later, he saw parts flying off the car in front of him. At first, he thought the car had hit a deer or something else in the road. He soon realized the front left tire had blown out, which had essentially demolished the entire front end of the car. Luckily, the driver was able to safely pull over to the side of the road, and all the other drivers were able to avoid the debris. Sean was driving his Model Y behind a Model 3 in Manhattan. Suddenly, the driver of the Model 3 slowed down and pulled over. Sean had moved over to pass him when the driver started to make an illegal U-turn. Luckily, Sean managed to stop just in time to avoid an accident. We're guessing both of them were thinking, this is definitely going to end up on Wham Bam Teslacam. David had parked his Model 3 overnight in a public garage in San Luis Obispo, California. When he woke up the next morning, he almost fainted when he saw he had 33 Sentry Mode notifications. Take a look at what he found. A woman walked up to his car and tried to open the door. When she found it was locked, she tried to pry the door handle open with a key. When that didn't work, she proceeded to gently drag the key all over the door before moving on to the window. When she eventually stopped, it looks like she got angry with herself. Changing tactics, she started to dust off the car instead. David isn't sure if she was trying to remove her fingerprints or if she was trying to help him clean his car. Either way, the whole thing was painful to watch. She started polishing the wheels with her hands, then proceeded up and over the glass roof. Next, the camera lens got cleaned up. Then she brought out the big guns. She picked up some sort of fluffy carpet and started using it to polish the car. Every inch of it. Then she changed her mind again and started smacking the Tesla with the carpet. I haven't seen this method over at the Chris Fix YouTube channel, but maybe it's a new trend. David washed his car afterward, but there were still some swirl marks and long scratches. He decided to bring the car to a detailing shop to see if they could buff them out. David says that if he has to park his car overnight, he'll choose a better spot next time. He's just relieved she didn't seriously key the car or damage it anymore with a deep cleaning. TJ was driving down Olympic Parkway in Chula Vista, California. As he was approaching an intersection, the cars ahead of him started to slow down. That's when he noticed a Volkswagen Tiguan speeding up behind him. The driver cut off a red Audi without even using a turn signal. When he noticed the car in front of his had stopped, the driver tried to avoid hitting it by swerving into the median, but he ended up hitting a light pole instead. TJ stopped to make sure everyone was okay, and the driver and his passengers were fine. TJ says that the driver appeared very upset over the situation. Craig was driving his Model 3 in Brisbane, Australia. Just as he entered an intersection, a ute pulled out in front of him. The truck proceeded to fart out an entire dinosaur, but Craig says he wasn't surprised, as this seems to happen a lot. Let's run the usual poll. Was this a case of intentionally rolling coal, or just a natural side effect of a diesel truck's embarrassingly slow acceleration? Arda had just picked up his kid from daycare and was heading home. He noticed that the car in front of him was driving very slowly, but since he was in no rush, he just kept following behind him. As they approached a roundabout, the driver of the Volkswagen suddenly drove off the road and into a light pole. A couple of cars behind them stopped, so Arda called the police and gave them the location of the accident and let them know he had video footage of it. After 45 minutes, police called back and thanked him for the call and informed him that the driver was okay and not drunk. Elon stopped for traffic, but the Toyota following rear-ended him. Elon thinks the Toyota driver was texting. To top it all off, the Toyota was then Honda bumped by a Civic, making this a 3-car accident. All the other cars involved were disabled, but the Tesla drove away just fine. Police saw Elon's video and said, "Okay, cool, sums it up pretty well." They asked him to forward the video to them for their report. Elon filed an insurance claim, and they determined that the other driver was 100% at fault. It'll take about a month for his car to get fixed, since it needs a new trunk lid and bumper cover. Luckily, all his sensors still work, so his full self-driving beta is still functional. He also wanted to clarify that he was not using FSD or autopilot when the accident occurred, and he was sure to tell both the police and his insurance provider this in a recorded statement so nobody would think this accident had been the Tesla's fault. JD stopped by a corner store on his way home and came out to find that a U-Haul truck had just hit a new Toyota Camry. He didn't think much of it at the time and drove home before realizing that Sentry Mode might have captured the accident. He turned around to head back to the store, and he's glad that he did. The driver of the U-Haul truck had fled the scene, and JD was able to give the Toyota driver a copy of his footage. The police arrived a short time later. Just as the police officer opened his mouth to ask what had happened, the Toyota driver turned to him and said this. As the cop reviewed the video, the driver said this guy's car recorded the whole thing. The cop checked out his Model X and said, "Cool car, man." JD asked the officer if he'd ever heard of the Wham Bam channel, and he said he hadn't. JD told him he'd send him a link because he'd be submitting this clip. So, hey there, Mr. Police Officer. If you're watching this, we really hope you catch the driver of the U-Haul truck. David was pulling into his driveway in Los Angeles, California when he almost hit a cat. David told us his kids Emma and Drew love to watch Wham Bam every week. Thank goodness he didn't hit that cat. Dan was driving his Model S in Denver, Colorado when a car ahead of him in the next lane crashed into a pickup truck at a red light. Dan isn't sure what car it was, but it was some sort of sports car. We can't figure it out either. Please leave a comment if you know what car this is. Tran was driving to pick up his girlfriend from the airport in Norway. The speed limit on this road is 110 kilometers an hour, or about 68 miles per hour, and conditions were wet and dark. He was driving right at the speed limit when the car in front of him suddenly slowed down, so he let off the pedal and let his car slow down too. Then the car completely stopped in the middle of the road. Tran slammed hard on the brakes, but the wet road made his stopping distance longer than he expected. He had to swerve onto the shoulder or else he would have rear-ended the Nissan Leaf Gen 2. Tran stopped and talked to the driver, and she said the car had stopped by itself and wouldn't move. By the time Tran left 15 minutes later, the Nissan still hadn't gone anywhere. Theo and his family were driving to an Imagine Dragons concert in Seattle, Washington when a speed racer in a BMW flew past them. They proceeded to merge across several lanes of traffic at once. While another car was trying to merge, the BMW suddenly appeared, forcing them to swerve to avoid a collision. Unfortunately, they overcorrected and hit a different car. Theo pulled over to offer help and provide them with his Teslacam footage. The young man said he hadn't seen the BMW coming, and this had resulted in him hitting a car being driven by an elderly woman. Both drivers were okay, with moderate damage to their vehicles, but then another car nearly hit them after the collision. In the end, it seemed like the police weren't going to hold the driver of the red BMW responsible, but Theo provided their license plate number anyway. By the way, Theo is also a YouTuber. He runs the Combat Arms channel, and he says he'll tell all his subscribers to come check out our channel. Okay, he didn't actually say that, but maybe he will if we tell our subscribers to check out his channel. Wink wink. Do you guys remember the Droplock we showed you a couple of weeks ago? It's a red 3D printed lock that prevents thieves from dropping your Tesla's back seat after smashing your window. The original creator stopped making it during the pandemic, and we asked everyone interested to contact Tesla Raj and Tesla DIY and ask them to start making it again. Well, guess what? They listened. It's finally back on the Test Bros site. This is not a sponsored ad. We don't get any money for showing you this, we just like the product. They did, however, set us up with a special Wham Bam deal just for our viewers. If you use the coupon code WHAMBAM, you'll get a 10% discount, and they'll donate 15% of the proceeds to our fundraiser for Raise 'em for Ukraine. We're getting so close to our new goal of $25,000 US. Thanks, Test Bros, we really appreciate it. Oh, and if you're wondering why someone might need the Droplock, this is why.
Teslacam. I hope you're satisfied.